On Dalal Street, it was a good day for the bulls. A late surge in financials saw the benchmarks ending at a day's high. In fact, the Nifty ended above 11,700 for the first time since August last year. The Sensex ended at a record closing high of over 39,000. Both the indices closing close to 0.5% higher. The broader markets underperformed the benchmarks. However, mid-caps recovered from the day's low and ended with minor gains. Nifty Bank recovering almost 300 points and ended mildly in the green. So new closing high there for the Sensex. The news just coming in. 15 more aircraft of Jet Airways have been grounded due to the non-payment of dues. This now leaves the debt-ridden airline with just 14 active aircraft, and that's not all. There is no consensus among lenders over releasing the 1,500 crore rupee fresh funds to keep the airline afloat. Anu Sharma joins us now with the latest. So, Anu, it doesn't look particularly good for Jet Airways, and there is that additional overhang now of what the Supreme Court order means for Jet, which is being resolved under the Feb 12th circular.
Well, clearly the day has not started on a good note for Jet Airways. Remember, in the morning, there were developments with regard to the active fleet of Jet Airways. We tracked from the aircraft tracking websites that the active fleet of Jet Airways has come down to around 29. Then later, government sources also confirmed that 28 to 29 planes of Jet Airways are currently in operations. And now the news has come in from the exchange filing that the airline has grounded 15 more planes. Now, this means that if we do a calculation on the basis of the numbers that have come in today, so the airline currently has only 14 planes in operations. That's not all. We also learned from sources that there is no consensus among the lenders to infuse the 1,500 crore sum into the airline for its interim survival. SBI is set to hold a meeting with PNB and other lenders in Delhi on April 4th to decide as to if the banks can come on board and provide the funding which is required for the airline. We learned from sources that SBI is set to provide 530 crore rupees and the remaining 970 crore rupees is expected from other lenders, and all lenders are not willing to provide more loans to the airline. So it looks like a very difficult road for Jet Airways considering the developments that have taken place a short while back.
All right, Anu, thanks very much. Of course, we'll continue to be on top of this story. It's not looking particularly good at this point in time. No consensus between lenders on the road ahead. But the top story, which comes in this evening, a major setback for the Reserve Bank of India because the Supreme Court has declared the central bank's bad loan resolution framework, which came into effect from the 12th of February 2018, as unconstitutional. Now, about 50 petitions were filed, including by power, shipping, sugar and other companies, challenging the circular. Remember, the Reserve Bank had on the 12th of February last year replaced all frameworks for bad loan resolution with this one circular, forcing banks to recognize defaults by large companies within a single day and find a resolution plan within 180 days of default. It was applicable to loans over 2,000 crore rupees, and the failure to find a resolution plan would mean the initiation of bankruptcy proceedings. Now, net-net, where does this leave the IBC? Where does this leave the resolution process? And what does this now mean for the Reserve Bank of India as well as for banks? Ashmit Kumar and Ritu Singh now join us. Ashmit, to you first. Take us through the fine print of the Supreme Court's judgment and also, the government's response in court, because the government actually was siding with the power companies, suggesting that there be a carve-out for the power sector.
Well, that was, of course, the submissions that had been put forth before the Apex Court. In fact, the sum and substance of the arguments that had been put forth, at least on merits, essentially was that this is a one-size-fits-all approach that the RBI has advocated for, and it's simply untenable. And that argument was common across the power companies, shipping companies, the textile companies, all of them raising that argument that this is a one-size-fits-all approach, that there are sectoral issues, there are regulatory issues, that the RBI approach is insensitive towards the sectoral issues that these companies face individually, that there are very many factors that are extraneous to the performance of the company, extraneous to the management, and that has not been taken care of. However, that entire body of arguments is missing as far as this judgment is concerned. The Apex Court has not delved into that. What it has, however, gone into is the powers of the RBI. It has detailed various sections of the Banking Regulation Act as well as the RBI Act, and has gone into whether or not the RBI has the powers. The conclusion that the Apex Court has arrived at is that in very, very specific cases under Section 35 5AA. That is the only section which gives RBI the power to push a company into under the IBC proceedings, but that too is subject to various degrees of criteria which haven't been met in this case, rendering this entire circular unconstitutional and ultra-vires. And with that, the Apex Court also clarifying that going forward, all matters that might have been initiated under the IBC under the February 12th circular shall now stand closed. With that, of course, there is much needed clarity that has come in, but let's also, for the benefit of our viewers, give more clarity that this judgment in no way binds the lenders from initiating IBC proceedings afresh against the companies in question. That's one. The other, of course, is there are other questions that come to light, questions with respect to whether or not, which is the resolution framework that will now be relied upon for resolution, if any of these accounts, what will be the impact on the lenders. That, of course, is something that we'll find out in the days to come.
All right, Ashmit, thanks very much for joining us. Let's go across to Ritu now. That was the fine print of the judgment. How is this likely to impact banks and debt-ridden companies that are currently under resolution? Ritu's here with us. Ritu, fill us in.
The Supreme Court verdict scrapping RBI's Feb 12 circular may just prolong the resolution of debt-laden companies and force the bankers to bring cases in which progress had been made back to the drawing board. Now, as per ICRA's research report, the total estimated debt impacted by the circular was about 3.8 lakh crore rupees across 70 large borrowers, of which about over 2 lakh crore rupees was from the power sector alone. Now, if you look at the mix of the cases under the Feb 12 circular, more than half are from the power sector, followed by EPC, telecom, roads and the other sectors. But as far as the bank's balance sheet is concerned, the scrapping of this circular should not have much of an impact, with over 92% of the debt already classified as non-performing assets and provisioning to the extent of 25 to 40% already being made. So overall, there should be little impact on P&L. But these numbers aside, this changes the way that banks will now manage their bad loans. With the circular being scrapped, there is no RBI-sponsored scheme to restructure debt at this point of time, and banks are free to choose the method that they will to resolve assets, whether it's through restructuring or through taking the borrower to the bankruptcy court. But the biggest hit yet, according to the experts that we've been speaking to, will come in the form of credit discipline concerns that the Feb 12 circular had helped enforce, not just among the bankers, but also the borrowers. Now, one of the large cases that has been on everyone's radar is the Jet Airways case under RBI's Feb 12 circular, and it does seem that the revival plan of the airline would have to be reworked because the allotment of majority equity stake to lenders for a nominal sum of 1 rupee, for instance, was being worked under the Feb 12 circular. So what happens to that plan and a lot of other plans remains to be seen.
Judiciary and Parliament by March 2020, they would also set a condition for devolution of funds to state governments for healthcare and education by asking them to fill up vacancies, at least 20 lakh vacancies at their level, and also urge them to fill vacancies in Gram Panchayats across the country. Rahul Gandhi also outlined manufacturing as a sector of concern under the Modi government and said that the Congress party would ensure, if elected, that manufacturing has a share of 25% of the GDP. Modernization of railway infrastructure, PPP model to increase supply of public goods. On the issue of farmers, the Congress party said that they would bring for the first time a farmers' budget. Secondly, farm loan defaults to be treated as a civil offence, not as a criminal offence. And Jairam Ramesh, while elaborating this point, saying that they're not only interested in loan waivers, they want to work with a combination of remunerative prices, lower input costs, and work towards freedom from indebtedness, or Qarz Mukti, as he called it. On the issue of GST, the Congress party president Rahul Gandhi called this Gabbar Singh tax. He's saying when Congress is elected, they would bring GST 2.0, which will be a simple, standard, moderate rate of tax across the country. There would be no tax on exported goods. There would be no tax on essential commodities, and there would be reduced paperwork. And instead of monthly paperwork, returns would have to be filed on a quarterly basis. The Congress party also spoke about banking reform, saying that there will be a comprehensive review of public sector banks. There would be amalgamation of 2 or more banks, so that there are only 6 to 8 public sector banks. On the issue of NBFCs, Congress party expressed its concern, saying that they would like to strengthen the regulatory framework of NBFCs and also thoroughly review their governance structure as well. Education found a lot of priority in the manifesto, and Congress said that they would ensure that education finds at least 6% of the GDP under the Congress rule. Also, on the issue of science and technology, Congress said that they will ensure expenditure on science and technology to 2% of the GDP. And some of the promises that we've heard in the past. Rahul Gandhi said that Congress party would like to scrap the Niti Aayog, they would like to investigate the Rafale deal, they would ensure that women's reservation bill, which has been pending in Parliament for several years now, is passed under the Congress regime. They would like to bring in a stronger anti-defection law, scrap the electoral bonds as well. So a rather ambitious manifesto, and Congress party said that this has been created after months of work and months of research and interaction with people across the country, and also NRIs from 12 countries.
Well, will it work on the ground? That is what is going to matter at the end of the day. The BJP calling it unimplementable and a bluff. Now to the big election newsmakers tonight. One is a two-time Rajya Sabha member entering the Lok Sabha battlefield for the very first time. The other has been a two-time Lok Sabha MP and is seeking a third term from her family bastion. The one factor that connects them both, they are both daughters of leaders who've made a mark in politics. Supriya Sule of the NCP and Kanimohi of the DMK, daughter of Sharad Pawar. Sule is the NCP's candidate from Baramati. She faces Kanchan Kul of the Rashtriya Samaj Paksha, a BJP ally. The NCP has retained the Baramati seat since 1999. Kanimohi, the daughter of the late Karunanidhi, is contesting the Lok Sabha poll for the very first time. She takes on the Soundarajan of the BJP in Tuticorin. Here are the two women on their prospects, their party's prospects, and the key issues that will decide the upcoming state elections.
It's clearly very, very exciting, and I think it's a wonderful step forward. Please remember, the first time we had reservation for women, it was started in Maharashtra, first time in this country, by Mr. Pawar when he was the Chief Minister. So our focus has always been equality and to give rights and opportunities to women.
How about the agri-crisis? You know, it's deepened in the last couple of years, and the drought this time, particularly in Maharashtra, is very, very grave. Where do you think the government policies are currently going wrong? And do you really think the 72,000 rupee, the minimum income guarantee that Congress is promising, that your alliance partner is promising, is actually going to make a difference on the ground?
Clearly, it will be, it will be a help to the poor people, clearly. And I'm so glad that you brought up this agrarian crisis in Maharashtra. This is exactly what I expected the Honorable Prime Minister to talk about. Because when you're coming to a state where there are huge challenges with water, why would you not talk about that? Why would you not talk about the loan waiver that you promised? Why would you not talk about the minimum support price that you committed to 5 years ago? Please read and go back to the speeches he made in Wardha 5 years ago, vis-a-vis here. For now, what he did. So it's really heartbreaking. Between
the PM Kisan scheme that the ruling party has announced and Nyay, which your alliance partner is talking about, right now the scheme is already functioning on ground as far as PM Kisan is concerned. Some farmers have actually got that 2,000 rupees.
Really? Where? I don't know anybody in my constituency who's got it. I don't know anybody who's got 2,000 rupees.
I spoke to Mr. Chandrakant Patil yesterday and he said 40 lakh farmers in Maharashtra have already been given.
Well, I haven't, nobody in my constituency has received it.
I definitely agree with her when she says that people are looking at development and they want job opportunities, which sadly the BJP has made sure that unemployment is all-time high in 45 years in the entire country. So I agree that people want employment, they want investments and they want more jobs here. And Sterlite, if she thinks, she wants to close her eyes and say that it's not an issue, non-issue, she's completely mistaken. But there's so much anger against Sterlite and the Tamil Nadu government and the BJP for what happened to the people and during the protests in Sterlite.
The women's reservation bill is a long pending piece of legislation in the parliament. The Congress president said it will see the light of day should the party come back to power. You're a woman yourself. What is your reaction to this election promise? And do you see it likely to actually happen should the Congress come back to power?
I definitely see it happening because it was under the UPA that this bill was passed in the Rajya Sabha. And then after the government had changed, the BJP had actually promised in its own manifesto to pass the reservation, 33% women's reservation bill. But they refused to bring it even in the list of businesses. And every time we had an all-party leaders meeting, I have raised this issue. And I've raised this issue many times in Parliament. But I've never got any answers from the Prime Minister who was chairing the meeting then, and even in Parliament.
Well, the DMK and the NCP allies of the Congress party. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of What's Up. Thanks very much for watching. Up next.